So during the New Bloom event, we've had some contentious matches. People are very passionate about their hats. And people have lately been very, very open about saying, like, hey, you messed up at this point. You should have taken out the Undying Zombie House. And because you didn't, we lost. I love that criticism. I love hearing that from my friends when we play Dota.
Yeah.
But that's like hard intel to give somebody.
Honestly, it has to come from the right person.
That's true. You can't just have anybody being sassy saying, like, oh, you goofed and it's your fault. But I wanted to ask you guys, because we play a lot of Dota together. We have a lot of friends that we play with who will also listen to the show and other IGN podcasts. How do you communicate to those people that they are not necessarily bad, maybe that they kind of sucked that game, or like what they could have improved upon? Like, how do you give valuable criticism to the people you play with, whether that's in Dota or League or Smite or whatever you're playing?
At least for me, like I know when I suck. Like and like I think I am very self-aware of me. Like as I'm playing awfully, I apologize. I think it has to come with realization with that person as well. Like if you're giving me criticism and I know I'm playing bad, I will accept that criticism. Like yes, please tell me I suck and tell me how to get better. Telling other people who maybe aren't so receptive to that.
There are people who don't admit that they're messing up.
Sure, like they don't accept that they are performing ineffectively, or that they chose the wrong hero.
There are 3 to 4 people that we play with who, like, I'm not comfortable telling them things because I know that they'll just have a really awful attitude about it.
That's fair.
So
what is the solution? Like, how do you communicate that information to them, whether that's through somebody else or anonymously? Like, I don't know. How do you communicate to that person?
An anonymous in-game gift, and it's like, hey, buy more wards.
That's really
Here's your reward. I'll give you one more if you buy more wards.
That's so good. Because that's important. Like, you don't want to not play with these people, but you also want to, like, knock you into a bad game with them.
Right. First of all, I break this down into what kind of problem it is.
Okay.
If there's like, okay, you're Lion and you have a Hex, and you Hex the like almost dead CM instead of the Storm Spirit who just jumped into the battle. Like, okay, you should have Hexed the Storm Spirit. That's easy, right?
Situational awareness.
Yeah, you hex this one massive problem who's going to come in and kill us. If it's something like, hey, you're always out of position.
My bad.
Jay kind of started saying that to you in the last game.
Jay, and that's the thing. Like Jay, who used to work at IGN, now works at Bandai Namco. He's very good at Dota, and he's getting more comfortable playing with us.
Right.
And now Jay is like, he knows that I want that feedback, and he knows that I will take it very clearly from him. So when he says, "What are you doing? Stop denying creeps. Leave the lane. Go away." It's like, oh yeah, I should be stacking a camp right now, and I should be doing this. I know that I'm not useful to you, so I'm gonna leave.
Papa Dota.
Right.
Papa Dota.
That's the hardest thing.
My
like
Dota dad.
If something is fundamentally wrong with how someone's playing and they do it almost every game, it's so much harder to tell them, because then they'll come to you and say, okay, well, what do I do? And I can't just be like, well, play better.
Play better, yeah.
Like,
it's
I can't
specific
say
things.
that.
I mean, even your example about hexing somebody coming into a battle is really interesting, because for me, it's like, typically I would probably focus it, like, because I'm a bad player, I would focus down a Wind Ranger who's almost dead, because it's more beneficial in my mind to get rid of that hero altogether. Delete her from the fight, then we can all take on Storm Spirit. Instead of, okay, I'm going to disable the Storm Spirit, hope that other people kill that hero. Oh no, they're both alive and they're getting away.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
But I totally understand your point, and now I'm like, oh yeah, obviously you hex him. Like, you hex him and then focus the Wind Ranger. Like,
right, like, if she comes back in, she's probably going to die.
Sure.
Like, focus on this crazy nuker target that can zip away from us. Yeah.
So, but regardless of that, how do you explain it to someone? Do you do it like Jay? Like Jay, I think it depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's relationship if you're playing with your friends. It's relationship if you're playing with total strangers in solo queue.
Yes.
And that, like, I try to maintain a very positive attitude. Even if I'm angry, like I speak in short bursts. I'll be like, hey, can we get some more words please from this person? And I'm like, hey, we're gonna do Baron or Dragon in 2 minutes. Let's set up wards now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not you do it. It's
we as a team need to do this.
Yeah.
But also, you're the support. Please spend the money.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like, at least in League, I'll just, no matter of what position I'm in, and especially for like the skill level that I play at.
Yeah.
It's more beneficial for me as a ADC, as a mid, as a jungler, especially as a jungler, to spend money on wards. Like
totally.
If it helps us from not dying, like that's a beneficial, like, good, like, net worth that you're getting out of at buying. an item.
Yeah, and I think like I try to give the advice to somebody that I would want to receive, which is, like you said, like very positive, like not like, hey man, this is how I'm going to tell you that you suck. You suck. But it's also like you have to be productive about it. You can't just point out that somebody made a mistake. Like your PA game that you're talking about, you were underfarmed, and you knew that. You didn't have the items you needed, and that was a result of many factors. I don't need to tell you that. I don't need to say, hey, James, so we lost that game because you had this problem. It's like, well, one, that's not true because there's other stuff. Two, you already know that, so we can just get that off the table. You have to present a solution to somebody. Like whenever I'm playing with Jay or Nick, who we play with, who listens, I get very specific feedback from them. Jay will tell me like, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on, but you keep losing track of your hero. You keep wandering into spaces you shouldn't be doing. Don't do that. Stop paying attention to other stuff. Like focus on you. Never lose track of you. Okay, cool. So if I'm looking at if I have my character on screen, I'm looking at the map. If I'm looking at the map, I need to know where my hero is.
The thing that I have trouble with, and because it's because of the nature of Dota and because it's such a team game, is that like, let's say I'm sniper mid and like you're up top, you're safe lane carry, whatever, and the offlaner goes on you and kills you, and you say, well, Brian, you didn't TP. Like if you TP'd, you could have got a kill. And if I didn't have a TP, it's like, okay, well, I messed up. But then I can say, well, like your support didn't have a ward up top. If there was a ward up top, you probably would have had vision.
Right. It is a cyclical blame game.
And then that support can say, well, this other person should have picked a second support instead of another carry. Like you can just pass it off as far as you want.
So I think that comes down to this very like, I think like removing even the game aspect of this, it comes down to this like very human nature thing.
Of course. Like the way you speak to somebody about this is super important. You can't just be like, why don't we have wards? James, get wards. Like that's not helpful.
Yeah, and I think it's the way that at least some people come down to, like when you're speaking with authority about something, if other people don't know that you have the authority, like again, I'm going to bring up Crispy. When he says something, I'm like, yes. Regardless of what it says, like if he tells me to do something, I'll be like, okay, that is what I'm doing.
Interesting thing about that. Crispy, like we know that Crispy and Jay and Studio and some of these guys that we play with are very smart. They know what they're talking about. I mostly take everything they say at face value as the truth. So when it comes to me, I'm bad at Dota. I'm not an authority, but there are times where I say things like, we need wards. I wouldn't have died if we had wards because I would have seen them coming. And I feel like because I am notorious for being out of position, I am notorious for dying a lot when we play, that kind of negates my authority in knowing what the situation is, even though I'm correct.
Yes.
And I feel like that makes people take me less seriously, which sucks. And it's not like you can help it because it's like that is the nature of this competitive game. Is like you're not as good as me, so I'm not listening to you.
Yeah.
The worst is when someone who is just generally worse at the game than you, and also like I don't know how to say this without
is cocky.
Is cocky or like is speaking like they know more than they do.
Yeah.
Is not just something. If they give you advice, that's fine. But if they're like, this is how this works. I'm like, well, no, like.
I think I did that.
No.
I think I did that. I'm gonna speak again. That's when someone knows. But I did that to Sam the other night, and when I was in the position where I'm like, hey, it was about Winter Wyvern, but like I had been playing the mode a lot, and I was like, here's the strat we're gonna run. He's like, no, that's not gonna work. I'm like, trust me, it's
Sam,
work.
stop. We know what we're doing. We know how to win hats, Sam.
Yeah. But I instantly felt bad because that's not the type of person I am. And
sure.
I try not to be that person, but it was also like. I wanted to win, and I was like, Sam, this is how we win. Please let me show you how to win.
I don't know. I think it's the difference between saying no and I disagree. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like when you give somebody advice about how to play a certain character or kind of solve a situation, and the response is no, it's like, all right, good talk, teammate.
Yeah.
Like that's not useful. You can have a conversation about like the merits of what you believe and balance that against each other, and after a match, talk about that with your team and be like, well, 4 of us think that was a mistake. Take that how you will. Like, take that information, do with it what you want. We're going to queue with somebody else.
I would love to do... I wish this was built in, where it was like you have a grace period where no one talks to each other for like 5 minutes, like after the game's over, like win or lose, and then we just go back and watch the game. And like rather than like, we lost the game, crap, let's analyze why we lost, is take a break for a second, like bring the ego back. Bring like.
Dude, see, I can't bring the ego back because there are times where in that 5 minutes after a game, all I'm doing is looking on Dota Buff and looking to see how many more sentries I bought than the other guy who should have been. And it's like, I bought 18 wards and you bought one set at the beginning of the game. Why weren't you buying any? Why didn't you buy Dust? Why didn't you buy the gem? Why did our carry buy a gem? Like, that kind of stuff, like, that's the stuff that gets me going when I'm upset about, like, the way someone performed. I have access to data that says I'm right. Like, to not use that against somebody, like, I don't because that's terrible, but I hang on to that, and I'm like, God, I know that I'm right, and it feels good.
I paid for this exclusive Dota service,
I paid $3 a month for this intel. It feels good,
we
man.
have been some salty fools the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and I just think it's because we're getting... One, I think we're getting better. We're learning a lot. We're learning to play better. And because of that, we're getting more competitive. Mm-hmm. Like, our win rates with each other are a lot higher than usual in the last month or two. But we've also had people go on, like, massive losing streaks.
That's true.
Sorry, Nick.
Nick had a bad one. I had a really bad one. Mine might have been worse than Nick's. I don't know. Nick was, like, abandoned.
That was a while ago, right? Like a month or so.
January, yeah.
Yeah.
The dark times.
Now we're back.
So, in general, how to tell teammates they suck. Be nice about it. Positive reinforcement, specific feedback, provide solutions, not, being an a-hole about it. Don't just say why they suck. Tell them how to improve.
Yeah, and you don't include extraneous, like, being succinct about things is like rather than writing a long paragraph, which I've seen people do.
Yeah.
Like, somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 words is probably the maximum thing you should communicate, because at that point you're just attacking them at home.
Yeah. Hey, man, maybe skill Shallow Grave early on so you can prevent ganks. Cool. Yeah. We're done.
Yay.
And so are we. We are done. So we're going to wrap up. This has been a shorter episode than usual, but it's actually 30 minutes. That's kind of where we try to clock in around anyway.
Gentlemen, try.
Thank you so much for joining me. This was a short show, a few topics. We're going to be back next week. You're excited. What's happening? You're playing a piano on the table right now?
We can't say what it is quite yet.
Oh, yes.
Because it's not finalized.
The Thing.
The Thing.
But there will be there's a new IGN hire, Brandon Tyrell.
Yes.
He'll be on the podcast next week.
Yes.
That we're going to be talking about Smite. I will not be here because I have not played Smite in a very long time.
Oh, man. You should. Game's fun.
But there's some other cool stuff coming up. There's a bunch of cool things. And then the giveaway, we will be sending out codes unless I'm mistaken, we have not sent those out yet.
I have not sent any, so unless you sent them out. All right, good job, team.
Okay, we will be sending those out.
We have codes. We have beta codes.
By the end of this week, so that will be the...
Yeah, check your inboxes. We have a lot of emails to sift through still.
They'll be like the 21st.
Although if we just filter out everyone who suggested the same Deckard Cain suggestion, we'll be all right.
Get out of here.
There are some people who suggested some awesome, really in-depth stuff.
And we got a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
You're pointing at me. Arena-podcast@ign.com. You can send us topic ideas. We're still sifting through emails, so if you want to win a Heroes of the Storm beta code, send us your suggestion for what Blizzard character you would add to Heroes of the Storm, and that automatically gives you a chance to win. We're going to have a lot more giveaways in the near future, and some really good stuff related to Brendan Terrell next week. We can talk more about that when the time comes. Keep an eye out for that. Lots of exciting things happening with IGN Arena. Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me for episode 25 of IGN Arena. We're going to take off, and we will see you next week. Until then, good luck and have fun out there.
Go play some games.